y'all please tell friends and family we're going to be doing a short theatrical run starting on Thursday at Lemley Novo, so spread the word. And there's some folks I'd like to acknowledge who came out to support and who were very involved in the film, and one of whom is actually on our Q&A panel, which is Beatitude Zachary Jones. Can you? Russell is Mike Jones, Minority AIDS Project. Who is one of our sound transfer engineers. Royal Anderson, who was part of Carl's Universal Love, his bandmate. Chris Jones, Bunny Jones' son, who's also featured in the film. And special thanks to Jeff Larson, who was also the co-writer on Born This Way. Thank you all for coming through. And I'd like to bring up some of our film team. First, our talented co-director, Daniel Junge. Executive producer and grand niece of Carl Bean, Cori Robinson. And here's Beatitude. Come on down, Beatitude.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and congrats on such a beautiful film.
Never looked or sounded that great, and you guys were great. So what an incredible screening. Thank you.
It's a beautiful audience. Thank you for being here. So to start things off, making a film truly takes a village and can sometimes take years to complete. I'd love to hear from everyone how they first became involved in the film, and then can you talk about the timeline of getting it made?
Sure. In the case of this film, it was 6 years, which is quite a journey for any filmmaker. And I think if I knew going into it, it would be that. I probably, I wouldn't have the strength or resolve to do it. But I was researching a series on protest music, social action and music, and wanted to tell the story of the gay anthem that I knew of, which was Born This Way by Lady Gaga. And in researching that, I found Carl's story. That series didn't happen, but Carl's story stuck in my craw. And come to find out, I was living in LA. For some reason, I thought it was in the Midwest. And realized that Unity Fellowship was literally 2 miles from my house. So I reached out to Reverend Russ, and we were meeting, 48 hours later, and this film started happening. Jed Allen, my fellow producer, we shot. Within 2 months, we were shooting that 75th Jubilee. That's actually at the end of the film. And, pieces, when you make a film for this long, pieces start falling together. First of all, it was, incumbent on us to have a very diverse crew. All of the key positions, majority of key positions are either people of color or LGBTQ identifying or both. And so my co-director, Sam Pollard, was a mentor of mine. A lot of you know Sam. And it's unfortunate he couldn't be here for this incredibly special screening, but he came on board as my co-director. And probably about 2 years in, we were reached through Josh Green, another one of our exec producers. I met Wellington, and it was just clear to me that Wellington was the right partner to have as our lead producer.
As Dan said, I came onto the project about 4.5 years ago, and it was Josh Green who we mentioned. I was away on vacation, and Josh sent me what was then a rough assembly of the hero interview of just Carl speaking, telling his story, walking us through his life, the ups and downs, the wins, the losses, the losses. And, as you can see, he's incredibly charismatic and magnetic and, brilliant storyteller. At the time, they were just looking for a little bit of money to put together a more polished edit. And after I watched it, I called Josh and I was like, you know, what can I do? How can I help? You know, sign me up. And it wasn't long after that we soon realized that we couldn't do Carl's story justice in a short film. And so, after some discussion with the team, you know, we opened it up, and it just meant raising more money, bringing in more elements of the story, adding more animation. I mean, you can see, you know, both the vibrancy and also the art that goes into making the animation, which is one of the most time-consuming, costly elements of the film. And anyway, we were able to add and build to what we now have. And we hope we've done some justice to Carl's story.
Good afternoon, Cori. One of Carl's great niece. And how I became involved is when Uncle Carl and I are very close, and I remember getting a call from him, Mr. Cori, things were happening with me health-wise. And there's this documentary that's being made about my life, and I need you to step in to make sure things are right. And pretty much when I got a chance to meet the team, and I saw what the fact that the vision was, and the fact that my uncle's story was going to continue. The legacy, his work, was going to continue. There was no way that I could not be a part of it. And so when we talked, like you said, we talked about, you know, it's going to be short, it's going to, like, no, as you all saw, there were so many facets to his life. And what I found going into the work was that there were some people who knew who Carl Bean was as a singer. There were some people who knew who Carl Bean was as the minister, Carl Bean as the activist. But there were those who didn't know that this person was all three things and so much more. And so I said I wanted to definitely, you know, grab the torch as he laid out for me to be a part of the team. And I'm just grateful to Daniel and to Wellington and to all the other producers who say, yeah, come on, have a seat at the table. And so, yeah, that's how I got involved.
Zachary Jones, and I feel like many people in this room that we came to this about 40-some odd years ago.
Right.
Where are you? Where are you? I know you're here. And so we, you know, living this, reliving it again and again, just reminds us of the incredible story of Unity Fellowship Church movement and the movement that Archbishop created in the many elements of his life. And these gentlemen have done just an outstanding job. I think we should give them another hand. That little small room where we were sweating and crowded and, you know, trying to figure it all out as young people, and you know, just we were so grateful to have it on the big screen, and we are praying that it continues to evolve, and the message of it continues to go forward. Great job.
So, you know, Los Angeles is such an integral part of Archbishop Bean's life and story. I'd love to hear more about his connection from the city. Maybe Cori, Beatitude, you can speak to that. And also how the collaboration process with the Unity Fellowship Church in the film was.
Well, certainly he always brought us along with him. And there were many elements. The selling out of the shrine was a phenomenon. He went on a hunger strike that created attention. That was a phenomenon. Magic Johnson coming to that little room to make the announcement of his status was a phenomenon. So there were many elements engaging with the city. Of course, we saw, the Honorable Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and oftentimes she would go away to Washington to labor and to lobby, policy, and we were left behind to keep the church going and to keep Minority Aid Project going. There are new founders here who work at Minority Aid still going forward, and there's so that work is continuing.
In terms of the relationship, I know that there's some filmmakers who want to keep an arm's length from their subjects. We just felt like we couldn't do that in this project. The church and MAP are partners in the project. Carl Bean he's a tough guy, and he drove a hard bargain. Even when he was ailing, he made sure that every dollar that we raised, some of that money was going to the church and to MAP, and we had profit sharing with the estate. And so that's how the financial structure is, but we wouldn't have been able to make the film also without the participation of the church and the MAP. And they saw the film early. Actually, thankfully, Carl got to see it in his last days. Mike Jones, you were there. And he watched it and he looked at me and he said, "That was so much more professional than I expected." Which I guess is high praise from the Archbishop. So we really made this film hand in hand with them as partners, and hopefully that shows. And I know other filmmakers feel differently, but it really felt like it was incumbent on us to do it that way.
More about, the thread of Billy Porter meeting Buddy Jones' son and discovering the B-side single. I'd love to hear just how that came together.
So Chris Jones is here today. Where are you, Chris?
Right. Hey, Chris.
So Chris, I'm going to admit to you now that I never intended to put you in the movie. I just did that interview out of respect for you, and you were so good. And your mom's story, at that point we had decided to turn this into a feature, and your story, your mom's story, was so good that we had to include it. And we've been searching. We knew about Liberation for Carl, and it seemed apocryphal. We couldn't find it. Universal is a partner on the film. David Blackman, one of our co-producers here from Polygram. They searched high and low through Universal's archives and couldn't find it. We were pretty sure that it had died in the fire. There was a Universal fire that a lot of great archive died in. And so after that interview with Chris, I asked him if he might know where that is, and he said, "Yeah, it's in my closet." He said, "You want to open it?" We're like, "No, wait. And that's when we got Billy over to his apartment, which was a big deal, and that's where that thread, that present tense thread, became a great B story in the film.
And then Beatitude, you were part of the singing and the creation of the song. Can you talk about that a bit?
Sure. I had heard Archbishop talk about the other side. It was always a vague kind of conversation, by the way. And so when we got an opportunity to hear the lyrics and hear the song itself, it was like, wow, the same reaction that Billy Porter had was, wow, this is an incredible piece of music. And people have been asking all over the country when we have these Q&As, that song comes up in terms of, where, when, and how, and just hearing the audience respond to it. I think it speaks for itself in terms of the life that it's created and made its way up.
Oh no, I was going to add that Cori was also part of the choir, and he was there that day.
But the beauty of that moment was that, having private conversations with my uncle about the song, is that he never, ever thought it was going to see the light of day. It was a B-side record, to be honest, the label didn't really see, where it was going to go. And the fact that it was able to be found, and then we were able to bring it to life, and then to have the players on it, Clinton Harris was a big house DJ producer that came in and spun his magic, and Questlove wanted to come in and check out the recording session. And then, again, having the attitude there, coming all the way over from California, because it was in New York, but California came back, and then having all the singers come in. So it means a lot to me that he didn't know, he would have never guessed that moment was ever going to happen. And you saw the film, I don't even know where the match is, I don't know where he is. And the fact that we were able to bring it to life in such a big way.
Still good.
Yes, exactly.
And we shot all that studio stuff in one day.
One day.
All day.
Oh.
I wonder if we have any questions out there in the audience. Yes, I do. Yeah, you.
Oh, gee. This was a fantastic film, and the animation, I was so impressed because it looked very realistic compared to just regular. But Motown is one of the great labels of music, and for it to have a label called gay is something that is mind-blowing. And I'm just wondering if there was anything in that didn't make it into the film about the artists. Was Valentino and Carl Bean the only artists on that label, or did they try and get other artists to be on that label? And who controlled the label, for Motown?
So he's asking about Gay Records, which was not an imprint of Motown. They were simply had a release. They just had the distribution, and there was plans for a lot. Chris Jones knows this better than I. There were plans for Gay Records to become a big label, but this was the only song ever recorded with them. That's right, Chris? Yeah. And so Motown didn't even have the rights to that song, but they knew that they could. They had access to it because they had a distribution deal with Funny. And thank you as well for recognizing the animation. Our lead animator is here tonight. That was a decision we made early on. Sam and I, the co-director and I, you have this dilemma whenever you have an archival film because no one was shooting in that small room. And so all these moments, these important moments in his life, we knew we were going to probably be in the world of recreation, which of course is pretty de rigueur in the doc world these days. And Sam and I have done our share of that, soft focus on glasses and following people down the hallway because the actors never look exactly like the real folks, and you're trying to, and also you can never recreate 1969. And so we decided early on, we're both big fans of Richard Linklater and work films like Waking Life and Scanner Darkly and using this rotoscope style. And we're just fortunate to find an animator who could replicate that style and plus it, give it an actual, give Carl Bean the comic book treatment that he deserves because he's a superhero,
Just to answer this man's question, there was another group that was on Motown at the time. I was the background singer as well in the 70s for Motown, and they were called the Dynamic Superiors. They never really got going, but Carl Bean is the answer. There we go.
Thank you.
Yes, right there.
Hi, thank you so much for this film. As someone who loves history and genealogy, I love when I get an opportunity to learn of someone new, particularly in Black history and culture. So thank you so much for making this film. I think it goes without asking, did the Archbishop get an opportunity to hear Liberation, since he didn't know what happened to it?
Not when we hadn't found it yet.
Did the Archbishop get to hear the Liberation song before you passed?
No, he did not. As we mentioned that, as you saw where the film cut, he had already transitioned when we decided to redo the song. So that's why I was saying, unfortunately, fortunately, he would have never, in his wildest dreams, would have even thought that that moment would happen. But I know he's smiling because he was like, we had many talks around like, what happened to the song? And, so unfortunately he didn't get to hear the reproduction, but he heard it.
Yes,
Yes, my question is, the Liberation song, is that completed? And will it be available for purchase on some of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify?
Yeah.
The release of
Your lips to God's ears.
Soon.
There's some red tape we gotta be able to get through first so that we can release it as a song, but we're working on that for sure.
And then Cat Pat.
Well, the only time I cried so much was when I saw Terms of Endearment. Yeah.
all right.
It's all right.
I understand. Understand.
I had,
Miss him.
I had the opportunity to meet Carl Dean. In the 80s, I was 25 years old. He was one of the nicest people. Did you come back to me?
Thank you.
Hello. First, I just want to say again, just praises for this beautiful film. And I'm with you, brother. I cried from years over this whole thing. Right? Daniel, thank you for the relationship we've had over these years and helping to formulate this relationship between you and the Archbishop. And my question is to you, Beatitude. So we see right in front of us the amazing work that he has done, from the beginning of time. And one of the things that he says in the film about Lady Gaga, he talks about the next generation. And he certainly shared a lot of that with me. And so with you being the new presiding prelate of Unity Fellowship Church Movement, I wonder if you can share the work that we, the denomination, are doing to move his legacy forward into the future.
Moving Mr. Bean's legacy into the future.
I'm sorry.
Just repeat the question.
Okay. How are we moving forward? Certainly, we have so many freedom giants in the room who still recognize that HIV and AIDS is still an issue. We still recognize that families, even though society has moved forward, that sometimes families can be still very cruel to same-gender loving people.
Yes.
We still recognize that our trans siblings are still in very much trouble and are being marginalized and mistreated in so many ways.
Yes.
And that we need to stand in the gap and in advocacy for the support of their lives, their safety, their existence. And there's still a lot of work to do. Is unity, the message of Carl being still relevant? Absolutely. Archbishop invites each one of us through this film into a movement, not about organization, but into the movement of love. And he demonstrated what the power of love could and would do when we unite. And so I think the question is always before us, who benefits from the division versus who benefits those of us who benefit through the power of unity and love.
This movie, I couldn't gauge whether I cried more for Terms of Endearment or Born This Way. Especially when he started talking about the club scene, people dying. Because I had a friend that left New Orleans and went to New York City and danced with Dance Theater Park. And around the time Carl Bean was, I think became Archbishop. I think that was the time he started my friend Mitchell McCarthy started going up. But he had opportunity to dance with Dance Theater Hall. And my question is, do people still feel that they have to kind of like reach out to people that are in hospitals, or because people are still dying, and wherever they may be. I mean, because I've done some work myself, but it's not always easy. And of course, there's advances in medications and new stuff, medical advances, but there are still people, not getting the best. So basically, I want to know, how is that going to be seen in the future?
Visiting people in the hospital in the future.
Okay. Certainly, I think it's important to realize that, we have some very powerful organizations that have been influenced by the Archbishop work. We have In the Meantime here over there with Jeffrey King and that group, what Wellington is doing through the Cori Center, his foundation. There's some incredible work that has been influenced in this work and is still being done. As a person living with HIV myself, we're seniors now, and there's some real serious issues that we are confronted with as long-term survivors of HIV/AIDS. So I think that your question is certainly relative in terms of bringing that to the forefront, that we are still, it is not over, and that we are still dealing with some very serious issues, dealing with life and social support. Thank you.
So we would love to hear from each of you. Is there a lasting message or impact you want audiences to take from this film and from Carl Bean?
Well, I especially want Wellington to address this, but I can just say we never knew the moment that this film would be meeting in its release and the moment that we're living in right now. And just the fact that this man fought for his whole life and still did it with love and compassion and hope gives me hope at a very cynical time. And I hope that that message resonates from the film as well.
I think never give up. I mean, Carl, the Archbishop, he faced so many challenges from childhood through his young adult life, through all the incredible work he did in his AIDS work and healing families and providing resources. And he talked about how much it all took, a toll on his mind and body. But he always, I didn't get a chance to meet him in person, but it seems that he always did it with a smile. He always did it with, incredible grace and compassion and genuine love. And I think that's so hard to remember. I know it's hard for me to remember. When I think about my, daily complaints, it's nothing compared to the things that he overcame. And I just think we have to remember, the fight goes on. We have to stay strong, and I hope that I can take that. I hope we can take that message and move it forward.
I'd like to talk about the dream element of this film, in that, one thing my uncle always encouraged us kids in the family, now we have generations after me, is to never stop dreaming. We talk about the ministry, we talk about the AIDS outreach and the activism, but Carl was always a musician at heart. He loved to sing, music was his first love. And when he was this, little black boy in East Baltimore, shout out to Baltimore in the room, some people in Baltimore here. So, but being a black boy during that time of segregation, civil rights, and to have a dream that I wanted to be a singer and going to New York and doing these big things, and he was able to amass that. And he also, we didn't talk about it in the film, he had other aspirations that he did accomplish, like Broadway. You know, Arms Too Short to Box with God, and Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope, were two things that he was able to accomplish. And so what I want people to see, young people to see, especially young black people, young people of color, is that no matter where you are in life, never stop dreaming, never give up on yourself. And if he could do this thing and then touch the world, not just California, not just Baltimore, but I mean, you go to dance clubs. I just came back from the UK and oh my God, you know, Orange Black. So basically just remember the dream element of the film. Thank you.
I just want to honor the people who walked with us because we were all in the trenches together. I know Anna's here. I know Minister Patty is here. I know that Roger Quinney is here. I know that just all of us who were put in this space together to heal and to support each other. And I just want to honor your presence and the energy you brought to this piece. And in that, with so much of what you said, that little becomes much when you place it in the hands of love. And to see Lady Gaga in this arena full of people being influenced by this one song from that corner of Jefferson and the lives that have been touched as being a person who took it beyond and took it to New York and saw what it does. So yes, the inspiration for certainly the upcoming generations is to continue dreaming and know that little becomes much when you place it behind the force of love. Thank you.